Hey guys, what is up? How's it going? This is Kazi here from cleverprogrammer.com. Today I'm here with
Peter.
And Peter is actually, he worked at Facebook, and I know a lot of you guys want to learn how do you actually get a job at Google or Facebook or one of those big companies, and so I have the privilege to speak with Peter, who happens to be here at VidCon. So welcome. And I would love to kind of get into it and hear your story and how you got started.
Yeah, so I went to school at Berkeley and I studied computer science. When I was graduating, I applied to a bunch of jobs and I got only one of them. So almost all of them rejected me.
Right, that's crazy.
And I ended up I decided I really didn't want to take the job. It was a company that I didn't think I would enjoy working at.
Yeah.
So then I ended up doing a startup with my friends.
Yeah.
And we just made a web app for fun. It was helped you tag photos.
Right.
This was a while ago, so it was less common of a thing then.
Right.
Through that, I ended up meeting some people who worked at Facebook and got an interview with there again. And I had interviewed before when I graduated from school and I got rejected.
Right.
So I interviewed there again, and this time I got the job. And it worked out, and then I worked there for a while as an engineer, and then I worked there as a product manager, and it was a great experience. Yeah.
Okay.
What's next?
Awesome. So that's great. I mean, for me to actually hear this, and for a lot of the people who are listening to hear that, it wasn't necessarily so much you just applying to everywhere you ended up getting a job. It kind of came out of you having the relationship.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know how much technical knowledge was needed, because, you know, a lot of the people following this channel are beginners or kind of getting started in coding. So how much knowledge, or what are the things that somebody would need to know to be able to get into the interview and then kind of pass it?
Yeah. So I can't speak for Facebook. I don't work there now. But I think they hire from all sorts of different backgrounds.
Okay.
So I think sometimes they're hiring for people who are in college. Sometimes they're hiring people who have never went to formal schooling for programming, but just have taught themselves, done projects on their own, and can show that they can code.
Right.
And it really varies. And I think it depends on which type of role you're going for, but across the board, there are people, I worked with people who had all sorts of different levels of experience, different paths of experience.
Yeah.
The general theme was that people were really excited about doing things, and really a lot of the people were really willing to do projects on their own, and had a lot of were excited about building stuff. Was the most important part.
Sure.
That being said, when you do interview, they are looking for a lot of, they're going to test you in all sorts of ways. So you usually do need to have some sort of, if you're interviewing as an engineer, you have to have some sort of engineering knowledge. It doesn't have to be through school, but you have to be good at coding in some way.
Right. Okay. So you have to develop these coding skills. So I imagine somebody they will go to college and get their experience, or maybe somebody who is doing it on their own and getting the experience, having those projects. But mainly it's that they keep applying. And, again, it was curious for me to find out that you ended up getting that opportunity through the relationships. So when is the right time for people to start building relationships? Should they wait after they've gotten their college degrees? Should they wait for a certain time? And how valuable are the relationships that they build?
So I don't think it's required, but I don't think it certainly helps.
Yeah.
So I think in general, you shouldn't necessarily make connections just to make connections.
Right.
But you should work on projects with your friends once they've worked on something with you, with your classmates, all sorts of people, and then they're going to be recommending you at a company maybe, or working on an open source project, and then you're working with people there. But the more people you work with, the more likely they're to know someone somewhere,
right.
And they can also vouch for you. And when someone's in a company's interviewing you, they can only figure out so much in the interview, right?
Yeah.
But if someone is vouching for you, that gives a lot more for them to figure things out. So a big thing is if someone there can vouch for you, it's going to help out a lot. So I think in general, you don't want to focus just on coding, but you need to be able to code well, and you need to work on projects and make friends and talk to them about it.
Right.
So I think that's good. Yeah.
Okay, and out of curiosity, how'd you get into coding and why?
Oh, I went to school as like an undeclared engineer, and I just took a coding class as a random class, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun to make things. I since then actually, so I did that. I took more classes, and then I ended up majoring in computer science. Since then, I learned that, you know what, going to school for computer science turns out is not the exact same thing as working as an engineer. So after I worked as a couple of times, like for a couple of years as an engineer, I found that like it wasn't the best thing for me. I wasn't the best at it, and I didn't enjoy doing. I enjoyed the end product, but I didn't enjoy the process as much. And that was okay. It turned out that a lot of other people on my team were really good at other things. And unlike in school where it feels like you all have to be good at everything, in work you don't. You have to figure out what you're good at. It's more important to figure out what you're good at and what you like, and then also what you're not good at, and find a team where the people who are good at the things that you're not can work together and like all be very energized doing what you're doing, and all be very good at it. So that was a really big lesson for me after a couple years of work, is that like I don't have to try and do everything. Some things I was trying to do I hated doing, but other people loved doing. And like once we figured that out, and that's why I shifted more towards front end stuff. And other people shifted more towards back end, and then I shifted more towards actually just like figuring out what we were going to do together and organizing things.
That's amazing.
But I think it is like in school you focus a lot usually on like trying to be good at everything you're doing, but in real life you got to figure out what's the thing you're good at, what do you really enjoy, and then find people that complement that and find teams that are looking for something like that.
Got it.
So.
Beautiful. So no need to be great at everything. Like find the thing that you are good at. And you said you kind of ended up moving out of the engineering.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And that was with Facebook. You moved out of their engineering.
I moved into a role called product management.
Okay.
Which is a lot about helping the team working together to figure out where you're trying to get to, and figuring out how to get there like as effectively as possible. So it's really about the whole process. And for a while, as a product manager, I still coded some for the team. And then once the team got really big and we were working on all sorts of stuff, like Android and iOS and backend and everything, I wasn't coding anymore. So it kind of like gradually changed. But yeah, I figured out that was the part I enjoyed a lot. And other people figured out they didn't enjoy that, and like offloading it on me made them got to focus more on the things they really liked. So yeah.
Any tips or strategies when it comes to the interviewing process? So maybe should they be thinking about some whiteboarding things or whatever? Just you can free flow on this.
Yeah, I think the general thing for an interview is one, just, I know this sounds dumb, but don't stress out. Because a lot of people, when they get stressed out, they just underperform, like they just do much worse.
Correct.
The second thing is just go and practice it with your friends a couple times. Just because, if it's a coding interview, just because you may be really good at coding, but you code on your computer. And in the interview, they may make you code on the board. And that's an entirely different spot. And that may make you uncomfortable. And it doesn't mean that you would actually be bad at the job, but it's like that's one of the ways that places check on how you're doing. So I think it's really good to practice a couple times. Practice in the same format that you would actually do it. So code on a board or on a piece of paper, but not with a computer if the place isn't going to do a computer. Be comfortable. Really also use it as a time for you to figure out whether that place is good for you, because you don't want to get a job somewhere and then turns out it's not good for you. So if there's something that you want to find out about the job, ask about that. But I think that's it. I think try not to be too stressed, which is like a hard thing to say, but I do think like it's kind of like it's gonna. When companies hire people, lots of times they don't hire someone who actually is great, and that doesn't mean that you're bad. It just means that like it's really hard to be confident that someone who you've only talked to for, I don't know, 5 people for half an hour each, so 2.5 hours or something, to be confident that they're great. It's like a really hard thing to do. And because of that, they're gonna not hire a lot of people who are great. And that's, so you have to go in accepting that and not be like, oh, just because I didn't get hired here doesn't mean that I'm not good at this. It may have just been that like I was one of the people who they chose not to hire, which is very, very, very common. And like in my case, I got rejected and then I interviewed again a year later and I got hired. So clearly the process isn't like the same exact thing every time.
Yeah.
So I think if you don't get hired somewhere, don't let it stress you out. Just go back and try again if you know it's the place you want to work. But make sure, practice a bit, and just try and stay calm, I guess.
That makes sense.
That's all I got on that. Sorry.
I love that. Thank you. And overall, in Facebook, what has your experience of working there been like? Like, let's say, what was your number one favorite thing and just your overall experience?
I really enjoyed working at Facebook. It was awesome. Something that was very helpful for me, actually is tied back to me changing roles, is that Facebook was really didn't confine me based on my role. So even if I was an engineer at some point, I was still able to find other things that were not necessarily traditionally in the engineer's job to figure out and work on if it was what was most helpful for the team.
Right.
Similarly, when I was a product manager, I was still able to write code and review diffs and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that about Facebook. From an engineering perspective, I learned a lot from a lot of people who were really good. Because when other people are reviewing your code, they're giving you a lot of feedback. And so I was able to grow a lot because of that. So overall, it was a great experience. I enjoyed working there a lot.
Okay, beautiful. And the number one thing you disliked about working with Facebook?
Oh, the number one thing I disliked?
Yeah.
This is kind of a dumb answer, but I really hated commuting to work because Facebook is not in San Francisco, and I lived in San Francisco. And I had to ride a bus an hour and a half each way every day to go to work.
That's a lot.
That was not my favorite.
What would you do on the ride there?
Oh, I would usually work because we had internet and I have a laptop. So I usually would it's kind of a nice time to either respond to email, or when I was an engineer, I would just code on the bus. So I would work there, but it still is surprisingly draining to just be on a bus for couple hours each day.
Right. So if you enjoyed Facebook so much, why'd you leave Facebook? What happened?
Yeah. So for me, I enjoyed it a lot, and I could have seen myself keep working there for a long time.
Right.
But I know my personality. My personality is that I could get complacent doing something. And I really wanted to try just doing some other things.
How many years?
I worked at Facebook for around 8 years, and I left Facebook around 2 years ago. So roughly that. So I really wanted to just try some different stuff.
Got it.
So just to see whether that was the thing I really liked and I wanted to go back and keep doing it, or whether I wanted to do something else.
Got it.
And I made some games with some friends. We made some mobile apps.
Awesome.
We made some chatbots. I did a bunch of engineering stuff again. I coded again, and it really reminded me that
Did you miss it?
At first I did, but I was like, you know what? My friends are much better at this than me, and we're just more effective when they were doing various things. But it was still fun, and I enjoyed making the projects. So I did that, and now I'm kind of exploring just doing something entirely different, and maybe I'll end up going back to it. But for me, it was important to find the thing that I was excited about, and I was lucky enough to be able to do that.
And entirely different as in what? When you say entirely different,
right now I'm very interested in some political issues.
Okay.
So I don't know the best way I can help, but I'm going to try and figure out something that involves leveraging my strengths and kind of helping out in the way I can. So maybe being involved in a campaign of some sort. I'm not sure. So I'm figuring it out. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
But for me, it was I left not because I didn't like it, but actually because I liked it. And I know I was the kind of person where by default I would keep doing the thing I liked, and I wanted to see if maybe there was something that was even better for me.
And are you ever interested in starting your own company, or are you mostly just interested in kind of doing your thing?
So for me, I guess I have started a couple of projects or companies on my own, or with friends, not on my own, but outside of a traditional company. And I'm not against it, but for me it's whatever goal. So there's different kinds of people. Some people care a lot about the process, some people care a lot about the goal. I get excited about a goal, and then whatever the best way to do it is. So when I was excited...
You're more of a visionary, it seems like.
I don't know about that. I just kind of some people really enjoy doing a particular thing, and I enjoy working on some goal of some sort.
Got it.
For example, maybe the best way to work on a problem is to start a company. Maybe it's to join a nonprofit. Maybe it's to join a larger company that already exists. Maybe it's something else entirely. Maybe it's just do something on your own. So for me, it's whatever problem I get excited about.
Dude, I love that.
I'd rather find the right thing for that versus feeling like I have to start something. But I'm very open to it if that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And when you were with Facebook, were you travel? No, it's all good. When you were with Facebook, were you traveling the world? Were you located in like one spot? You know, how was that like? Were you able to work as a remote developer when you were working at Facebook?
I didn't. So I was based in San Francisco, and there's a lot of different Facebook offices now. So you could have been based somewhere else, but I was based in San Francisco, and I worked at the Menlo Park office. And I did travel a couple times to work, but that was usually for recruiting trips.
Yeah.
So we would like go to places and interview people. Or for like research trips. But other people in other roles would travel more, and other people maybe work remote, but that wasn't something I did.
Dope. Okay, man, this is awesome. I kind of love your journey of getting started into coding. And how old were you when you really got started into coding? Like, what was that first moment that inspired you? Like, for example, for me, I remember it was, you know, my brother when I was in high school, and he inspired me to actually get into coding. So I'm really, really curious what it was for you that like sparked that interest and got you into it.
Yeah, so I guess in high school,
Fuck yeah, both of us.
math class,
Nice.
I had a calculator, and it was not a TI-86, it was like a Casio calculator.
I was programming my calculator.
So I would be bored in class, and I would program the calculator a bit.
I was cheating on tests.
I wasn't doing that, but I was just like playing with it while I was bored.
Yeah.
So that's maybe like the first kind of programming experience I had. But really it was just an intro CS class I took in college. I really enjoyed it, and I just kind of kept doing more of that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Cool.
And lastly, any words on like inspiration or motivation for programmers who are like maybe, you know, they're like, how do I get through this? What kind of mindset do I need to have to get through it? And how difficult of a journey is it? You know, kind of what was the mindset that helped you get through and actually get a job at Facebook? So something around the mindset of it that helped you that might be able to help somebody else who's watching.
I think it's a hard question because there's not like a specific problem in this case.
Right. So what was your mindset like that helped you kind of push through and not quit? Like you applied to 100 jobs. What made you apply to 100 jobs and not quit?
So I think the thing for me, I think the more important mindset thing for me is kind of what we talked about earlier, which was to eventually realize that like you don't have to be good at everything.
Right.
So like what parts of this am I good at? And what parts of this not just am I good at, but do I like enjoy doing? And not all of coding is the same. So maybe you're doing UI work and that's what you really enjoy, and that's what you're good at. Maybe you're doing infrastructure work, maybe you're doing security work. Those are all kind of like, they're related, but they're all different, and you may only enjoy some of them. And that's okay. Like, find the one that you enjoy, if it's one of those. Maybe it's something else entirely, but find what you enjoy and that you're good at, ideally. So if you can find the best of both of those, and then focus on that, and find people who complement you in the rest. I think that's a big thing for me, and that's what helped me a lot. Not so much in school, but after school, and once I was working. Because before that, I was pretty stressed out about, because like, I don't know if I can keep doing this forever. Like, there's so much of this. There were things I liked a lot, but there were things I didn't like. And my mindset was just, I have to do all this, because I assumed that everyone liked the same things as me. But in reality, everyone likes different things, and everyone is good at different things.
That's true.
So it's kind of figure out which parts you're good at. And it's okay and normal to not be good at everything, and just find what you're good at. I think that's my comment there.
Beautiful. All right, so awesome. I think this was kind of pretty amazing. I'm just gonna wrap it up. So for me, the big takeaways were, you don't necessarily need to have graduated from Harvard or Berkeley. Sometimes the big four or the big companies can actually pick you based on a whole variety of different things. You never kind of gave up even after you applied to so many different places. The power of building relationships that actually led you to be able to get the in, right? During the interview, don't freak out and kind of go in there with a relaxed mindset, and maybe train and prepare yourself before you go in, right? On a whiteboard and things like that. So those are really, really valuable tips. And also how you started as a developer, but it doesn't mean you have to be a developer for the rest of your life. Like, you went in as a developer, and then you went into product management, and then after that, you're like, now I'm going to do something else, and now you're going to politics, like something completely different. So there are different avenues you have here as well to navigate. So overall, I think this was really wonderful. Thank you for sharing that experience. Where can they follow you? Maybe on Instagram, maybe something?
I don't really have any sort of public persona page.
Ghost. He's a ghost. No worries. All right. So, Peter, thank you so much, my man. Guys, as always, this is Kazi. I love your face. This was an interview with Peter, who's a badass, and I'm honored to spend some time with him. I love your face, and I'll see you in the next video.